We discovered in their answers 5 basic ways to apologize. We call them the 5 languages of apology. I want to share those with you because one of these is what you consider to be a sincere apology.
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding ours, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hi there, we're so glad you joined us for Better Us. Welcome to our home.
Okay, we've all heard of the 5 love languages by Dr. Gary Chapman.
And we even did a whole show on that book. The
Right.
conversation was so good.
And now Dr. Chapman is helping us to learn 5 new languages. He calls them the 5 languages of apology.
So it's been said that an apology is the super glue of life. It can repair just about anything. But what if the way your spouse apologizes just doesn't seem to hit the mark for you? Maybe you feel like you need something more than just words.
What if there's actually a language barrier that you've never realized was there? According to Dr. Chapman, that's probably the case.
And this is such a huge topic that we're devoting today's entire show to it.
Our kitchen couples are ready to jump into the conversation. We have CFL football great Mike Pinball Clemens and his wife Diane.
And youth and children's pastors, Eric and Kara Maines.
This is going to be a good one, so stay with us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm the one that should apologize. Okay, that was staged.
We're sorry.
We apologize.
We do.
One of the essentials to long-term healthy marriages is dealing effectively with our failures. I say that as an essential because none of us are perfect. Now, one man did raise his hand when the speaker said, "Does anyone here know of a perfect husband?" He shot his hand right up. He said, "My wife's first husband." My observation is, if there are any perfect husbands, they are deceased. And most of them got perfect after they died. Reality, there are no perfect husbands. There are no perfect wives. You don't have to be perfect to have a long-term healthy marriage, but you do have to deal with your failures. And that involves apologizing and forgiving. Now, the difficulty when we try to do this is we have different ideas on what it means to apologize. We found in our research that 10% of the population almost never apologizes in any manner. And most of them are men who were taught by their fathers, real men don't apologize. The reality, real men do apologize. In fact, real men will not have a long-term healthy marriage unless they learn how to apologize. We discovered in asking people 2 questions. Number 1, when you apologize, what do you typically say or do? Second question, when someone apologizes to you, what do you want to hear them say or do? We discovered in their answers 5 basic ways to apologize. We call them the 5 languages of apology. I want to share those with you because one of these is what you consider to be a sincere apology. Your spouse probably has a different apology language. Language number 1, expressing regret. Often with the words, "I'm sorry." But don't ever use those words alone. Tell them what you're sorry for. "I'm sorry that I lost my temper and yelled at you. I'm sorry that I came home an hour and a half late and we've missed the program and I know you wanted to go." Tell them what you're sorry for. If you simply say the words, "I'm sorry," they may well be thinking, "You certainly are. Is there anything else you want to say?" You think you've apologized. They think you're giving a character report. Tell them what you're sorry for and don't ever use the word "but." "I'm sorry that I lost my temper and yelled at you, but if you had not, then I would not." And now you're no longer apologizing. Now you're blaming them for your poor behavior. So expressing regret. In this language, you're trying to communicate to them that you feel badly about what you've done because you know you have hurt them. A second apology language is accepting responsibility. "I was wrong. Should not have done that. No excuse for that. I accept full responsibility." Now, for some people, this is difficult to admit that they're wrong because when they grew up in a home where they were told every day what they did wrong, seldom ever told what they did right, in their mind, they said, "If I ever get to be an adult, I'll never be wrong again." and they have difficulty saying the words, I was wrong. But for some people, this is their apology language. And if you don't admit that you were wrong, then in their mind, you have not apologized. They're waiting to hear you accept responsibility for your behavior. So I want to challenge you, even if it seems difficult, learn to say the words, I was wrong. In fact, why don't you try it right now? Just say it out loud. I was wrong. See, for some of you, it was hard even on a dry run. So I want to challenge you, because for some people, this is their apology language. Incidentally, if you have children, this is the place to start teaching children to apologize. A 4-year-old breaks a cookie and says, it broke. And the parent says, honey, let's say that a different way. I broke the cookie. Not a sin to break a cookie. You're just helping the child accept responsibility. My son was probably 6. We were in the kitchen together. He accidentally knocked a glass off and it hit the floor and broke. And I looked at him and he said, it did it by itself. And I said, Derek, let's say that a different way. I accidentally knocked the glass off the table. And he said, I accidentally knocked the glass off the table. It's not a sin to accidentally knock a glass off the table. I'm just helping him learn to accept responsibility. So let's learn how to apologize in our marriage, and let's also learn how to teach our children to apologize. In the next segment, I'll give you 3 additional ways to apologize.
Dr. Chapman, 5 languages of apology, some great stuff. We are in the kitchen here with our kitchen couples, Mike and Diane and Eric and Kara. Yeah. And so he kind of touched on some buttons that kind of say, wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I need to maybe be more on the apologetic side, saying, I'm sorry and I'm wrong.
Well, I love the fact that he's taken his 5 love languages concept and now translated it into how to best apologize to your spouse and how they need to receive an apology from you. Because we all, if you're in a healthy marriage or you're trying to be in a healthy marriage, apologizing to each other is almost a day-to-day thing.
I was about to say it's often.
Yeah, because it just happens.
And it's all about, as he said, dealing effectively with our failures. And we all have failures.
Yeah.
We all have multiple failures, probably every day. But dealing effectively with it so that it heals the relationship and it strengthens it and doesn't deteriorate.
So the first 2 he talked about what were they?
Expressing regret
and accepting responsibility. Okay, so we have all taken the test. You can go onto our website at abetterus.tv, and there's a link there where you can take the test too to discover your languages of apology. And it's very interesting to figure that out. And so for me, my top 2, he ranks them in order, the 5. My top 2 are the ones we're covering in this segment. So expressing regret and accepting responsibility. So expressing regret is...
Yeah, you got the same.
Yes. Like we just really want to know that you get it.
Yeah.
You feel the weight of what you've done. You say back to me what it is that you've done, and you own it. You own that that's what you've done.
You don't leave it at, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
But you expand more on,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for doing this and this, to show that you understand it. I would have loved if this was in like our marriage counseling or something, just because it helps you communicate better and strengthen each other as
But it's
in
here
your
now,
relationship.
so
It's
now we can
true.
move forward.
Right? 4 years later.
I love how, the second one, number 2, accepting responsibility. When I took the test, that was actually the very bottom one. In fact, it scored 0 points with me, accepting responsibility. I actually don't need you to tell me what you did. I already know what you did. You don't need to accept the responsibility. Mine was in the second half of where he's going to explain it. So we'll get to that when that comes up. But I thought it was pretty interesting how mine was a 0.
That's not a priority for you.
I
For Kara
don't need her
say,
to
I
accept the
responsibility.
responsibility because like we all know what happened.
Yeah. Okay.
It's funny how then another person will say, well, that's got to be right at the top. He's got to, and so, but we all have these different ways that we think what's meaningful to us in an apology.
Absolutely. My top one was regret. And then my second one is in the second half. Yeah.
Dr. Chapman's going to cover off
regret.
3 more to come.
on the other 3 in a minute, but so that's
interesting.
So
very interesting.
expressing regret, that's mine too. And so your top is the same.
You two
for
match.
So yeah,
Okay.
I'm the same as you.
Yeah.
So
And I was there too as the top one.
Yes,
The expressing regret.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that Dr. Chapman said that there are 10% of men who will never apologize. Like you said, that's just not in them. Maybe because of the way they were raised. He said sometimes the way, you were treated as a kid. When you get older, you kind of make this inner vow or something. I'm never going to have to apologize, And so that's almost sad, isn't it?
Yeah, and so that's why I know, Eric, you spoke very specific about accepting responsibility, very low in your, but as a man, for me, and I think the way the questions were asked, they were asking, what would you do? And so accepting responsibility for me would be, rather than saying, deferring it to someone else or something else, right? But to not only express regret, but take on the responsibility and say, yes, this is me. This is my responsibility. I did this, not someone else. It was me, and I apologize. I'm sorry.
And he also said, real men apologize. Sometimes we think, well, it's the macho thing. I'm not going to apologize, but the real men. They do, and I remember remember the Happy Days years ago.
Oh yeah.
And Fonzie, I remember the one episode. One episode, it was pointed out that he obviously, was wrong, and he tried to admit to it. He said, "I was rude. I was rude."
Couldn't get it out and say a word.
He was the quintessential, macho guy, and he was, the cool guy. And it was he was just pointing out how for those type of guys, it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a clever way of positioning it. That real men apologize, and I would say real men who are hurt don't apologize, right? And so it's hard to say they're not real, right? They've probably experienced real hurt in their lives, so being empathetic in every situation, I think, is important here.
I think and to be healthy, you've got to be well-rounded. And a lot of times, we've talked on this program a lot about when our baggage collides and we bring things with us, maybe that we're never healed from our childhood or whatever, past hurts. And I know that I was raised in a home where it was, there was not a lot of encouragement. In fact, there was a lot of pointing out when I did something wrong. And so I know Dr. Chapman was saying that usually people from that home, they vow, I'm never gonna. For me, I went the opposite direction. So it's easy for me to take responsibility, to take the blame. It's like, okay, you're probably right. It's probably my fault, just because that's the positioning. So in those instances, that's when it's important for both the husband and the wife to own up and say, no, we both are to blame here. Because otherwise, it's really tempting to just let that person take all the blame. They want you anyway, Yeah.
And the hurt that might be there that's causing the lack of wanting to apologize, that's kind of a wall, and they can't really figure out. Maybe you might need to see someone that can help walk you through that, a counselor or whatever, because you want to have that strength. You got to have that. You want to become a better us.
Yeah. Well, coming up, Dr. Chapman is about to finish off the 5 languages of apologies and give us the other 3. So stay with us.
May I suggest that you learn what your spouse considers to be a sincere apology and learn to express your apology in each other's language. You make it much easier for them to forgive when you do so.
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video.
Today we're talking about how to apologize effectively. Why is it so important? Because none of us are perfect. In the first segment, we talked about 2 ways to apologize. Number 1, expressing regret, often with the words, I'm sorry. And then accepting responsibility. I was wrong. In this segment, I want to share 3 additional languages of apology. If you learn which language your spouse considers to be a sincere apology, your apology will ring the bell with them. If you simply speak an apology in what you think is a sincere apology, you may miss them emotionally. So, language number 3, offering to make restitution. What can I do to make this right? I know I've hurt you. What can I do to make this right? It's very biblical. It's what Zacchaeus did when he encountered Jesus. Remember? He said, people I've stolen from, I'll pay them back 4 times what I took. That's restitution. So let's say, guys, that you forget your anniversary. I know you wouldn't do this, okay? But you've no candy, no dinner, no flowers, nothing. And you look on the couch and she's crying. And you say, honey, what's wrong? And she said, I can't believe you don't know what's wrong. And it dawns on you. I doubt that I'm sorry is going to hack it. But if you tell her you're sorry, oh, honey, I'm so wrong. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But then you say, but look, honey, I know we can't do anything tonight. I've blown it. But listen, honey, let me make it up to you. What can I do to make it up to you? We can still celebrate, honey. She'll have an idea. Yeah, a little trip to Hawaii or something just might do it, okay? Restitution. I shared this concept once with a friend of mine who was a counselor. And he said, Gary, I read this and I realized this is my wife's language. I had not been speaking it for 15 years. All I ever said was, I'm sorry. And she had a hard time forgiving me because she didn't think I was sincere. But this one is what she said I've been waiting for 15 years. And now he said, I do it. I always say, honey, what can I do to make it up to you? And every time she has an idea. When I do, she can let it go. So for some people, this is what they consider to be a sincere apology. Number 4 is what I call genuinely repenting. It's expressing the desire to change your behavior. You see, you did the same thing last month, and now you said you were sorry, and now you're saying, I'm sorry again. Your spouse is waiting to hear you say, look, honey, I don't like this about me. I don't want to keep doing this. I know I did it last month. Can you talk with me and help me and let's find a plan that I won't do this again? I don't want to do this again. I remember the lady who said to me, Dr. Chapman, my husband lost his temper with our baby. Baby was crying and he was trying to get the baby to stop crying. Finally, he just lost his temper, picked up our baby and started shaking our baby. And when he did, she said, I grabbed the baby and said, don't do that to our baby. And I ran to the bedroom sobbing. She said 10 minutes later, he knocked on the door and asked if he could come in. And he said, honey, I can't believe I did that. I love our baby. I don't ever want to do that again. Can you help me? Can we talk? Can we get a plan that I won't do that again? She said, Gary, I sensed he was so sincere. We sat there and came up with a simple plan that if he ever felt himself about to lose it with one of our children, he would simply say to me, honey, I'm hot. I've got to take a walk. And I would know what it meant, and he could take his walk and calm down. She said, Gary, that was 8 years ago. He's never lost his temper again with one of our babies. She said he's taken quite a few walks, but he's never lost his temper. You see, he learned how to express an apology in a way that was meaningful to his wife, even though he had done a horrible thing. She found it easy to forgive him. Number 5 is actually requesting forgiveness. Will you forgive me? I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. For some people, this is what they're waiting to hear. Have to be honest, this was not one on my radar. I thought that if I'm apologizing in any way, wouldn't they know I want to be forgiven? But for some people, they're waiting for you to verbalize those words. Will you please forgive me? May I suggest that you learn what your spouse considers to be a sincere apology and learn to express your apology in each other's language. You make it much easier for them to forgive when you do so.
We are back in the kitchen with Mike and Diane, Eric and Kara. We got the last 3 of these 5 languages of apology from Dr. Chapman. And so did you see yourself in any of those? Like what is more meaningful to you? The idea is learning the language that your spouse considers to be a sincere apology. And so good insights there.
And I think Eric and Kara, you guys were all over these last 3.
Our languages are in this segment.
Okay.
Mine specifically is requesting forgiveness. I want you to actually request that I forgive you. Okay. I don't know. It's just I find it that it kind of, I don't know if it gives me the power or something, but like I will always forgive my wife because I love her so much. I'll always forgive her, but sometimes it's nice to be asked, hey, you know what, I was wrong. Can you forgive me? And that's when I took the test, that's what it said. That
so let me ask you this, when you do something wrong, do you find that's the way you apologize to Kara? You say, you
hey,
I
can you
would
forgive
say
me for
that.
this?
yeah.
Where I don't receive apologies that way. I am the make restitution, so or genuinely repent. So if you've done something and all you're saying is, "Will you forgive me?" I don't really think you're that sorry about it.
Yeah, and
So
I've had to
I'm-
learn that we need to make a plan and just say,
Yeah.
I ain't care, I am sorry, and let's figure out how we're going to. You know what? No, I have a plan of how I'm not going to do this again, and I bring it to her, and then that's kind of better for her to she'll be like, oh, okay, oh, you're
And-
putting effort into it,
Yes.
okay.
I have to see it, or I feel like his words are empty.
right.
So it's like, yes, you might be sorry, but there's no follow through to this. And if I don't see follow through, then I don't think it's a genuine apology, which has been interesting because getting into the marriage, we had no idea. We had different languages of apology. This has just been something that we've been learning and diving into and figuring it out because really the way to win a fight is through apology for both of you and figuring out what your language for apology is really important for making restitution in your marriage because
To healing, to bringing healing to the offense, whatever it was.
I really think this is really important because
Yeah.
like we were just young, we fell in love, and we were like, all right, let's get married. But we got married, and now we're figuring out all these different things and just taking the love languages test, doing the languages of apology test. It's just I love it.
It's eye-opening, isn't it?
It is.
It really is, into not only yourself, but especially into your spouse.
That's right.
Did you guys find that?
My number one was, I found that my language was repenting. Right, and I found that interesting because we were different on that one. But like Kara was saying, just you did something wrong. Just, don't do it again. Like you know what you did, don't do it again. That's all. I'm good, right? So, and his were, what were your?
Yeah. So my last one was request forgiveness. As you were talking there, I said it's a different way to look at it. For me, I feel if I've done something wrong, right, the last thing I want to do is to burden them with forgiving me for it, right? I think there are things that I need to earn my way back rather than to, like, I've done this wrong. Now, I'm gonna ask you to forgive me. Like I've already filed up, right? So let me earn my way back. And so we're all wired differently, and that's the beautiful thing. And knowing how your spouse is wired, so important. And then I think knowing how you're wired is also, I think it's secondary after knowing your spouse, but I think it's important that you know how you're wired as well.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say, you're so different. For me, my bottom had a zero need was for to ask for forgiveness. I don't need that. But your second to highest was to request forgiveness. Like it's really important to you, but it doesn't matter a hill of beans to me.
Yeah, it was at the
So
bottom of mine as well.
so we have to really learn each other, and because if I never, ask for forgiveness from him, he's always waiting for that. It's like, okay, yeah, I know you're sorry, I know you own it, but don't you want, like you said, Eric, don't you want me to forgive you? Can you not ask me for that? So that's a journey. That's a learning journey. Because
It's also good to instill these things in our children as well, as Dr. Chapman was saying in the first segment. Because I remember when, you might remember, Eric, when you were young.
You know where we're going with this?
If one of our kids did something to the other kids, usually you and Adam, his older brother, so they would sometimes say, okay, well, you need to say you're sorry, and then it might just be sorry. Sorry. But then we say, no, first you say, I'm sorry. So that's the, owning it, accepting responsibility. And then after that, we said, okay, there has to be something on the other side from the one receiving the apology. You needed to say, I forgive you. You remember that?
Do you remember this, Eric?
I remember you guys taking it way further than that too. It's like, okay, now say 3 things you love about your brother. And I'm just like, okay.
Those are for the really big blows that brothers have. You know what I'm talking about. Brothers sometimes.
But I do remember you guys saying that. Say I'm sorry, and now you have to say I forgive you.
But you have to mean it. It can't just be blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, he's sorry. Okay, I forgive you. It's kind of like, because a lot of people need that closure in their lives. They say, okay, that's the period. It's over. What happened is done because you've asked me to forgive you, and I've given you that forgiveness, and it's done.
Right.
And if anyone knows if it's sincere or not, your spouse knows. They can tell whether it's your tone of voice, your attitude as you're saying it, or you're just trying to get this behind us so we can just say this quickly and get this.
And move on,
So it's so important to know the languages of apology. So this has been good. Yeah.
Remember, if you and your spouse want to discover your own languages of apology, just go to our website at betterus.tv. There's a link there.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. We will be back just to wrap up the program. With the help of Dr. Gary Chapman, we've discovered some insight into a vital issue in marriage, apologizing.
We've learned that just a simple "I'm sorry" usually doesn't cut it, because your spouse best receives an apology in his own language, the way that is most meaningful to him.
It would help out a lot if we can learn her language of apology and become fluent in it. And of course, that includes taking some necessary steps that are not always easy for us, like swallowing our pride, humbling ourselves, and admitting our faults.
Yeah, that goes both ways. And if we really want to get to a place where healing can begin, offering that well thought out apology is the best place to start. And don't wait for your spouse to take that first step. You take it.
But maybe you're thinking, that sounds great, but you don't understand our situation. And you're right, we're all different.
That's right.
But God knows, and He wants your relationship to be healed, for your hearts to be softened toward each other. And sometimes that takes help beyond what you can do on your own.
You know, looking to a marriage coach or counselor is a great idea, but looking to God is the best place to start. Why not make prayer an important part of your marriage? It's the place where you can draw on the greatest source of strength that can help you get through those toughest of times.
If you'd like someone to pray with you about it, feel free to call our prayer line. We had counted a privilege to join with you in faith and trust God for a miracle in your marriage.
Yeah. And that prayer line is available even when we're not on the air. Well, thanks again for stopping by. And remember, with God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
You can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.